In the endless dark of the galaxy, whispers travel faster than light. Merchants speak in hushed voices at spaceports, telling each other that humans have built a warship unlike any other. Alien smugglers laugh at these rumors, calling them stories for children. But still, the whispers spread, like fire touching dry grass. Every empire has heard the name of this ship, though none can say where it hides. They call it the Terran Warship, and they say no empire can stand against it. The Zorath Empire, proud and ancient, dismisses the story at first. Their admirals laugh in their grand halls, boasting that their fleets have ruled the stars for centuries. Humans? One of them scoffs. They are barely out of their cradle. How can they build a weapon to threaten us? Others agree, their voices full of arrogance. But one young officer, silent in the corner, feels a chill run down his spine. He has seen a report, a secret file that speaks of an entire fleet vanishing near the human borders. The report tells of a colony world on the edge of space. 30 alien ships entered orbit, ready to conquer it. The next transmission showed panic, alarms, and the sudden arrival of something massive. After that, silence. No more signals, no survivors, only darkness. When a scout ship was sent later, it found nothing but debris floating in orbit. No trace of the human colony, no trace of the invading fleet, only scorched metal and shadows drifting in the void. Still, the Council of the Zorath does not believe. They think it is a trick, a trap laid by another empire. They tell themselves humans are too weak to build such power. But in secret, fear begins to spread. Spies bring more whispers from other sectors, a mining station destroyed in a single blast, a pirate armada wiped out before they could even send a signal. Every rumor ends with the same words. It was the Terran Warship, ACR. Across the galaxy, other empires begin to wonder, could the humans truly have built something that rivals their greatest weapons? The Zalrek Dominion, known for their cruelty, laugh at the idea, yet their warlords order their fleets to stay far from Terran space. The Jathari Confederacy, traders and diplomats, grow nervous. They cancel trade routes that pass near Earth, whispering about unseen dangers in the dark. Meanwhile, on the human side, silence rules. No message is sent to the galaxy, no threats, no boasts. The Terran leaders say nothing, as if daring the galaxy to find the truth themselves. The unknown makes the fear stronger, because silence is more terrifying than words. And the longer humans say nothing, the louder the galaxy imagines the truth. One night, in the floating city of Zorath Prime, the young officer walks through crowded streets. He hears the people speak, the same words over and over. They say one ship can destroy 1,000. They say it moves faster than light, but without any drive. They say its weapons burn through planets like paper. None of it can be proven, yet none of it can be denied. The rumors have grown into legend, and legends are sometimes more dangerous than facts. Far away, in deep space, a lonely freighter drifts near an abandoned sector. The captain, an old alien with tired eyes, watches his scanners. At first he thinks it is a shadow, just another trick of starlight. But then the shadow grows, filling his screen with impossible size. The Terran warship passes silently, massive and dark. Its hull gleams like midnight steel, covered in strange glowing lines. Weapons that no one has seen before shimmer with quiet energy. The freighter crew stares in awe, too afraid to even breathe. And then, in the blink of an eye, the warship jumps away, gone without a sound. The freighter captain never forgets that night. He knows the rumors are true, and he knows the galaxy will never be the same again. When he returns to port, his story spreads like wildfire. This time the whispers are not just rumors. This time there is a witness, a living voice to confirm what others only guessed. The galaxy trembles as his tale is told again and again, because if the humans truly have a ship like this, then no empire is safe, and the galaxy is about to learn a truth it has long denied. No empire survives a Terran warship. The galaxy did not sleep after the freighter captain's story. Markets shook, fleets were recalled, and spies rushed to confirm the truth. But no one had seen the Terran warship so close, not until the night the Zorath sent their scouts. The scout fleet was small, only 6 ships, fast and sharp. Their commander was Captain Driel, proud and ruthless. He was ordered to find proof of the human weapon and, if possible, destroy it. His crew laughed when they received the mission. How can one ship threaten an empire, they said. But Driel was not laughing. Deep in his heart he remembered the whispers, he remembered the fear in the eyes of people on Zorath Prime. The scouts entered Terran border space. The stars around them were silent, no signals, no colonies, only empty void. For 2 days they searched, scanning asteroids, listening for transmissions. Nothing appeared, nothing moved. Some of the younger officers began to relax. "See," one said, "there is no Terran warship, just lies to scare us." Driel almost believed them, until the third night came. On the third night, the sensors screamed. A shadow bigger than the stars slid across their screens. At first they thought it was a planet, but it moved too fast. Then they saw it. A massive black shape emerging from the void, the Terran warship, silent and terrible. Its hull reflected no light. It was like staring into darkness itself. Strange lines of blue and silver crawled across its skin like veins of fire. Every alien officer froze, their mouths dry, their hearts pounding. Driel shouted orders. "Power shields. Lock weapons." But before his words finished, the warship was already moving. It did not fire. Not yet. Instead, it glided through their formation like a predator circling prey. Its presence alone crushed their courage. The scout ships tried to keep distance, but the Terran warship always stayed ahead. Every time they changed direction, it was already there, watching, waiting, judging. One officer whispered, "It is playing with us." Another said, "We cannot escape." Panic began to rise on the small ships. Some begged their commander to retreat. Others wanted to send a warning to the fleet. But the moment they tried to broadcast a signal, their systems went dark. Every screen, every console turned black. The Terran warship had shut them down with a single pulse. Then, at last, the humans spoke. A voice filled the silence of every alien ship, deep and calm. "You should not have come here," it said. The words were in their own language, clear and cold. Driel felt his blood freeze. No one answered. No one dared. The Terran warship turned, its weapons glowing faint blue. For one terrible second, Driel thought it would destroy them all. But then the glow faded. Instead, the ship fired a single beam into empty space. A nearby asteroid shattered into dust, its pieces burning like fireflies. The message was clear. The humans had the power to erase them, but they chose not to. Then the warship vanished. One blink and it was gone. No jump signature, no trail, only silence. The alien scouts stared into empty space, shaking with fear. They were alive, but their souls felt crushed. Driel knew at once. This was not mercy. This was a warning. When they returned to Zorath space, no one laughed anymore. Their reports spread to every corner of the Empire, and beyond the Zorath, the galaxy listened. For the first time, the empires understood what they faced. The Terran warship was real, and it had chosen to let them live, but fear grows faster than hope. Soon every empire would be asking the same question. If one ship could do this, how many more had the humans built? The Galactic Council chamber was a palace of stars. Hundreds of alien leaders sat in a great circle, their voices rising like thunder. Every empire had sent its strongest, its wisest, and its most arrogant. And every one of them spoke about the same shadow, the Terran warship. The Zalrek Dominion roared first, their leader pounding his claw on the crystal table. "These are lies," he shouted. "Humans cannot build what we cannot build." His words echoed, but his eyes betrayed fear. He had heard his own scouts speak of the black ship that hunted silently in the void. Across the chamber, the Jathari diplomat raised her thin silver hands. "We cannot ignore this," she said. "Ships have vanished, fleets destroyed, all with no survivors." She leaned forward, her voice trembling. "If the humans possess such power, then every empire here is already at risk." Murmurs filled the air. Some leaders laughed, others growled, and some stayed silent. The Zorath admiral, Driel's master, stood tall in his armor. His face was stone, but his voice cracked when he spoke. "My scouts saw the warship they lived to tell us, but only because it allowed them to live." He paused, his words sharp. "It was not an accident, not a rumor. It was a warning." The chamber shook with argument. Some demanded immediate war, to crush humanity before their power grew. Others demanded treaties, to bow before the Terrans and survive. The council began to split. Old alliances cracked, new rivalries sparked. The galaxy itself trembled as its rulers shouted at one another. And then, Silence. Not from the council, but from the lights. Every torch of energy flickered and died. The great star-shaped ceiling turned black. Every console, every device, every sound went still. In the darkness, a new voice filled the chamber, calm, steady, human. "You speak of us as if we are not here," it said. The leaders froze. This air, eyes wide. The chamber guards raised weapons, but their rifles powered down, useless in their hands. A single spotlight flickered to life in the center of the hall, and there, as if he had always been standing among them, was a human envoy. Tall, silent, wrapped in a plain black uniform, his eyes glowed faintly with the reflection of unseen machines. He did not carry weapons, but his presence was heavier than any warlord's army. The Zalrek leader hissed, "How did you enter here?" The envoy's lips curved in the faintest smile. "You already know the answer," he said. "We are not here to conquer, nor to kneel." His voice echoed in every corner of the chamber. "We are here so that you understand." The Jathari diplomat whispered, "Understand what?" The envoy looked at her, and the silence of the galaxy seemed to rest on his words. "No empire survives a Terran warship," he said, "and no empire will ever again threaten the home of humanity." The lights surged back. The consoles flickered to life. The human envoy was gone, as if he had vanished into the air itself. But the council chamber was no longer the same. Fear and awe had replaced arrogance, and for the first time in history, the empires understood they were no longer the masters of the stars. That night, messages flew across the galaxy. Some called for war, others begged for peace. But beneath it all, a single truth burned in every leader's mind. The humans were watching. The humans had already been inside their most guarded halls, and if one man could walk into the council without resistance, then what could their warship do? The galaxy had heard whispers, it had heard stories, it had even heard witnesses. But whispers could be denied, stories could be dismissed, and witnesses could be silenced. The empires demanded proof, and proof was exactly what the humans gave. It began at the edge of Zalrek space. The Zalrek Dominion had gathered their pride, their strongest warship, the Bloodfang Dreadnought. It was a ship feared across sectors, a fortress of steel 3 kilometers long. Its weapons could melt moons, its shields could take the fire of an entire fleet. To the Zalrek, it was a symbol, a promise that they still ruled the stars. Crowds gathered on Zalrek worlds to watch the broadcast. Their rulers promised them a show of strength. "See for yourselves," one warlord declared. "No human craft can stand before our dreadnought." The galaxy tuned in, every screen, every console, every port waiting for the clash. And then it began. The Terran Warship arrived in silence. No banners, no fleets, just one ship sliding out of the void. It dwarfed the stars, its hull smooth and black, its veins glowing like cold fire. The Zalrek Dreadnought roared forward, its cannons already burning. Without warning, it unleashed its full power. Thousands of plasma lances shot into the dark, shaking space itself. The void lit up like a storm. But when the flames cleared, the Terran warship was still there, untouched. Not a single scratch marked its surface. Panic rippled through the Zalrek crews, but their warlords screamed for more. "Fire again," they ordered. "Show no mercy." The dreadnought obeyed, unleashing its superweapon, a beam forged to cut through mountains. The energy tore across the void, striking the Terran ship directly. Every watcher held their breath. And then, in the silence that followed, they saw it. The Terran warship had not moved, had not even raised its shields. The beam had broken against its hull like water against stone. And then, for the first time, the Terran warship fired. Its weapons did not roar, they whispered. A single lance of pale blue light shot forward. It touched the dreadnought for only a heartbeat, and in that heartbeat, the Bloodfang ceased to exist. There was no explosion, no wreckage, only dust drifting in silence. The strongest warship of the Zalrek Dominion had been erased as if it had never been built, the broadcast. Carried across the galaxy, millions watched in silence, billions trembled. The Zalrek people wept, their pride turned to ash. Other empires fell silent, their leaders pale and broken. No one spoke for a long time, because what they had just witnessed was not war, it was truth. Then a human voice came through the broadcast. It was calm, steady, impossible to ignore. "We do not seek conquest," the voice said. "We do not seek empires, thrones, or tribute." The voice paused, the silence heavier than any explosion. "We seek only peace, but hear this truth. No empire survives a Terran warship." And then the broadcast ended. No signal, no message, nothing but the quiet hum of space. The galaxy had seen enough. They had seen power beyond measure. They had seen what one Terran warship could do with a single shot. And deep inside, every empire knew, if the humans ever turned their gaze upon them, their thrones would burn, their fleets would vanish, their names would be lost. That night, in the hidden halls of power, rulers whispered, not of war, but of survival. Some plotted secret alliances, others begged for peace, but all of them carried the same thought in their hearts. The humans had shown the galaxy a warning, and the warning was simple. The age of alien empires was ending, the age of humanity had begun. The galaxy trembled after the dreadnought's destruction. Most empires bowed their heads in silence, afraid to even speak of war. But not the Korval ascendancy. They were proud, ancient, and blinded by their arrogance. In their golden halls, their emperor shouted before thousands, "Humans are cowards hiding behind one toy," he declared. "Let the galaxy see. We shall crush this Terran warship and burn Earth itself." The crowds cheered, but their cheers were hollow. Fear clung to them, even as they raised their fists. The Korval did not send a single warship. They sent an armada, 500 battleships, each armed with weapons of annihilation, carriers carrying tens of thousands of fighters. Destroyers, cruisers, escorts, a moving storm of steel. It was the largest fleet assembled since the ancient wars of the galaxy. As the fleet marched through the stars, other empires watched in secret. Some prayed for the Korval's victory, others prayed for their failure, but all knew the truth. If the Terran warship fell, humanity would lose its shadow of fear. If it survived, no empire would dare rise again. The armada reached the border of human space. Scanners swept, weapons primed, every gun ready to fire. For hours they searched, finding nothing but silence. Then, without warning, space itself rippled, and the Terran warship appeared, alone, unguarded. It floated before them like a dark mountain in the void, silent, patient, unshaken by the armada's size. The Korval Emperor's voice thundered across the fleet. "Fire with all your might," he commanded, and the stars themselves seemed to explode. 500 ships unleashed their fury. Beams, missiles, plasma storms, all hurled into the darkness. The void became fire. The warship vanished in light. For a moment, the Korval believed they had won, but then the flames cleared, and the Terran warship was still there, untouched, unbroken, unmoved. Its black hull shimmered faintly, its glowing veins alive with cold fire. The galaxy gasped in silence. The Korval Emperor screamed in rage. "Again," he ordered, "destroy them." The armada obeyed, pouring every weapon into the void. But nothing mattered. Nothing touched the Terran ship. Then finally the humans answered. The Terran warship pulsed with light, its weapons waking like gods. One beam, and an entire line of Korval cruisers dissolved into dust. A wave of energy, and fighters vanished like sparks in the wind. The warship moved with impossible speed, faster than thought. Every shot was precise, every strike absolute. Within minutes, the grandest fleet of the galaxy was burning. Ships exploded like stars dying, their wreckage scattering into the void. The Korval Emperor screamed as his flagship shook. He begged his gods, he cursed the humans, but nothing saved him when the pale blue light touched his throne. His ship vanished, erased from existence, and with it the last pride of the Korval ascendancy. Across the galaxy, billions watched the transmission. They saw 500 warships fall to one. They saw arrogance turn to silence, power turn to ash. And they understood at last the Terran warship was not just a weapon, it was a judgment, a force no empire could resist. That night, whispers filled the galaxy once more. Not of resistance, not of defiance, but of surrender. For if an armada could be erased in minutes, then what chance did a single empire stand? The galaxy had witnessed not war, but the end of war. The age of conquest had died with the Korval, and all that remained was fear of the humans who had ended it. The fall of the Corval Armada shook the galaxy like an earthquake. What was once arrogance turned into silence. What was once pride turned into fear. Every empire that had laughed at the rumors now trembled, for if 500 warships could be erased in minutes, then what hope remained for anyone else? On Zalrek Prime, once proud warlords locked themselves in their palaces. Their people whispered in the streets. They say the Terran Warship is not alone. They say Earth has built more, waiting in the shadows. Fear spread faster than any fleet, stronger than any weapon. In the Jathari Confederacy, merchants refused to travel. Trade routes collapsed, markets went dark, the very economy of the galaxy began to crumble, for no one wanted to risk passing near Terran space, and no one dared to ask the humans for permission. On Zorath World, soldiers deserted their posts, entire garrisons abandoned fortresses. Us believing no wall could save them, even mighty generals confessed in private that their empires were already dead. Not by fire, not by blood, but by fear itself, rebellions rose like storms. On worlds ruled by tyrants, the people cried out, "Why bow to emperors who cannot even face a single Terran ship?" Chains were broken, flags were burned, whole planets overthrew their rulers in the name of survival, because they believed humans were already the true masters of the stars. The Galactic Council tried to meet again, but the chamber that once echoed with arrogance now echoed with silence. Half the seats were empty, their rulers dead or fled. Those who remained argued not of war, but of surrender. Some begged to send envoys to Earth, others demanded treaties at any cost, but none dared to suggest defiance again. Through it all, the humans stayed silent. No new broadcasts, no new threats, no boasts, only the quiet shadow of their warship moving unseen across the void. That silence was more powerful than any battle, because every empire filled it with their own terror. Every leader imagined the warship above their own homeworld. Every soldier dreamed of its pale blue light burning their fleets. On a lonely mining colony, a child asked his father, "Why do we fear the humans so much?" The father looked up at the stars, his voice trembling. "Because we do not know how many ships they have," he whispered. "And because even one is enough to end us all." The legend of the Terran Warship became more than a rumor, more than a story. It became a truth carved into the hearts of billions. Empires that once ruled for centuries collapsed in weeks. Some surrendered without a fight. Others destroyed themselves in panic. And in the ashes of their thrones, only one name remained. The name of Earth. The name of humanity. Yet still, whispers grew louder. What do the humans truly want? Why have they shown such power but not taken the galaxy? Questions without answers spread like storms and feed, or turned into something new. Uncertainty, because silence could be mercy, but silence could also be the calm before the storm. And so the galaxy waited, trembling in its own ruins, knowing that when the humans chose to speak again, the fate of every star, every empire, and every throne would be decided in a single breath. The galaxy stood broken. Empires that had ruled for thousands of years were now dust. Fleets that once cast shadows across the stars had been erased. And in the silence that followed, only one truth remained. No empire survives a Terran warship, but fear alone cannot hold a galaxy forever. At last, the rulers that remained gathered one final time, not in the Grand Council chamber of old, but in a ruined hall, half its lights dead, half its seats empty. Their voices trembled as they argued. Some demanded to kneel to humanity, others whispered of rebellion, yet none dared to speak the word war. Then the lights flickered as they had before, and once more, a human envoy stood among them. His uniform was plain, his presence silent, but the weight of his gaze silenced the chamber. He did not need weapons, he did not need guards. The galaxy already knew what stood behind him, the shadow of the Terran warship. "You have seen enough," the envoy said, his voice calm as a quiet storm. "You have seen your fleets erased, your empires fall, your thrones turn to ash." He paused, and the silence felt heavier than battle. "We are not your conquerors, but we will not be your victims. We ask for no tribute, no thrones, no crowns. But hear this truth and carve it into the bones of your worlds. No empire will ever again raise its hand against Earth." A Zalrek warlord trembled, his claws clenching. What if we refuse? He whispered. The envoy's eyes glowed faintly, cold as the stars. Then your empire will no longer exist, he answered. No threats, no shoutin'. Only truth spoken, as simple as breath. And in that moment, the galaxy understood. The humans had not come to rule. They had come to end the age of rulers. They had not come to conquer. They had come to break the chains of conquest itself. Every empire bowed, some with pride shattered, some with silent tears, because they knew the truth could not be denied. Humanity had become the balance, the force that no throne could resist. Across the stars, the story spread. On broken worlds and rebel colonies, people whispered with hope. No empire survives a Terran warship, they said. But the words were no longer fear, they were freedom. Because if no empire could survive, then no tyrant could rise again. The age of endless wars was over, and the age of humanity had begun. The Terran warship drifted silently through the void, its hull gleaming like midnight, its veins glowing with cold fire. It did not need to fire another shot. Its very existence had already changed the galaxy forever. Children pointed at the stars and called it the ship of truth. Legends named it the end of empires, the guardian of Earth, but among the humans, it had only one name, the truth. And so the galaxy learned that no throne was eternal, no crown unbreakable, no empire untouchable. But one truth would remain for all time. No empire survives a Terran warship, and now the galaxy knew it.